Hi everyone, welcome I think to our third Python for data science. Alright, so we started the last 2 weeks, introduce you to Python. Alright, so we'll start talking about what is Python, how is it different from other programming languages, right? And we spoke about how, for example, you could create a variable, for example, y equals 3, alright? So we don't have, for example, a declaration for the type. We don't declare it. It will be declared by itself once you use it, right? So when you create a variable, okay, it could be integer, it could be a float, x for example 3.1, it could be a string, z equals, for example, hello, all right? All right, that's how we deal with creating the variables, right? And we start talking about what is a statement, what is a structure, what is the structure of the sentence and or statement in Python, right? Last lecture, I think we start talking about like the loops. So, for example, we spoke about if statements. If, for example, if x, for example, greater than 3, okay. All right, and we don't have then. We don't say have then. We have column. We don't forget the column, right? And we said for all the structures we have to have indentation. Other languages don't have that. C++, C#, Java does not have it. So usually you have 4 characters indentation or 1 tab. 4 is recommended. Okay, 1 will work, 2 will work, any number will work. The good thing is to use your own standard. So if whatever, so return, for example, return x for it, right? There is no semicolon to end the sentence unless you put them in one line, right? All right. Also, we spoke about the for. So for x, for example, x in range 5, right? Then whatever you're gonna do, right? The for statement, right? Okay, so we spoke about the range. Okay, so for example, range 5 will give you what? What are the values? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So usually the range works like, range, for example, range, start, end, and step. Very important to know exactly how range or indexing in general works in Python. When we get into the data science and we work with files which has like millions of data, it's very important to know how it works. So if I say, for example, range, okay, let's say 5, or not 5, yeah, 5, for instance, okay. Let's say 0, 5, 2. What are the values in here? So it starts from 0, step 2, 4, but the end is not inclusive. You don't put, okay, that, right? Okay, so it's very important to know. Anyways, so we learned about range, okay, how it works. If I say, for example, range, okay, minus 5. So what will be the values?
Minus 4, minus 3.
It will be 4, not minus. There's one. 4, 3, 2, 1, and right? So we have negative indexing, which is like take it from the other side. Take it from the other side. Anyways, we'll see it today in the list also. What else? We learned about if, we learned about while, right? So while. While, okay, true, for example. Column, while true. What will happen? We keep looping. We keep looping. So while true, for example, while true, x, for example, equals x plus 1. Okay? Then you break. You could break at certain time, break. okay, at a certain time. So you could have, for example, if you have a sentence if x equals 5, colon, then break, right? And break. And notice the indentation is very important. All right? All right, so you could use a break, and there's another sentence called continue. What does continue do? Break the loop and goes to the beginning of the loop. What does a break do? Break the whole loop, gets you out of the loop, right? Exactly like any other languages, right? Also, there is many programs where in the examples, did we cover anything else? I forgot what we covered. That's what we covered last time, right? Okay, and as I told you, there is a lot of exercises, full of programs. I will not be able to cover them in the class, but the code is available for you. Most of the codes coming from this textbook, at least for the first 5 lectures. Okay, it's very important to have it. All right. So my recommendation to you, and again and again, that you have to write all the codes by yourself. Write them, execute them, do a lot of mistakes. The more mistakes you do, and fixing you do, the more you learn the language. All right. And as I told you, the first 4 lectures will cover a lot of material, but they are easy. I mean, all of you know the logic about if, for, while, and all these sentences, range, you know, small things, but you have to be fluent with the language. Okay, so we'll cover Python, we'll cover the concepts of Python in 4 lectures or 5 lectures, which is a lot of information, as you will see later, you know, okay? And then after that, we're gonna move into the packages, pandas, for example, NumPy, SciPy, TensorFlow, you know, whatever we can cover in here. So we'll give you a very good background for the data science and for introduction for machine learning, okay, for machine learning, all right? So, you have within the first 5 weeks to be fluent in the language. Only I could mention heads here, okay, what you have to go, give you direction, but you have to work by yourself. As an example, today my presentation has like 200 slides, a lot of information. I will not be able to go over it in this class. I will not be able to go over the programs in here. You could try them yourself. Myself, just to go over the slides to refresh my memory what to talk about today, it took me 3 hours. Okay, myself. Okay, and I taught this class before, right? And programmed Python before. So for yourself, you know, to go and be fluent and try to go and run the programs, write them, it's gonna take you a while. It's gonna take you 5-6 hours, and then you have to do the homework. So you have to allocate for this course every week, 6 to 10 hours, you know, to be able just to do it, right? The goal here is to jump into the data science, not to learn Python, okay? Maybe in the future I'll make it like a prerequisite that you know Python before you come to this class. But for now, we're gonna spend like half of the lectures actually to learn Python, but then we're gonna jump into more important stuff. I need your help. You need to work very hard. You need to do the homework. You need to, do programming, right? Any questions for me? All right. So today we'll talk about very important things: structures, classes. We said in Python everything is class. Everything is a class. So everything in Python, everything is class. That means we have to initiate what? Object. We have to create an object. Okay. So for example, when we say x, for example, or you know, x equals hello. Hello. Okay. What is x? Is an object. Object of what? String class. It's an object. So this is object of string class. Is of a string class, right? When you have a class, you could do many things. One things we have learned before, for example, operator overload, right? I'm jumping ahead, but just to give you an idea what we're gonna do, right? So for example, if you have, for example, okay, x equals 3 multiplied by 2, what will be the value of x? 6, right? Why you are scared? Right? X equals 6. What is x? It's an object. Object of what? Integer. It's an object of a class integer, right? All right. So if I say, for example, x equals this now. What is x? It's an object of string class. It's derived from a string class, right? Right? If I say multiplied by 3, what is the value of x?
3 sixes.
Hmm?
3 6.
3 sixes, right? So 3 6 6 6. So x will be 6 6 6, right? Right? So what is multiplication in here? Repeat. So we have like operator overload. All right? All right? So that's why everything is in a class. So it's very important later on to be very familiar with object-oriented programming, which we'll cover in this class. All right? Not in deep details, but we'll give you enough things, right? So just remember that everything is what? Is a class. There is a very important function I taught you last time, which was type. So if I say, for example, in here, type, or if I say print type of x, what the result will be?
String.
Class string, something like that, right? Right? So type is a very important function that you use it a lot while you are doing your programming, right? Just remember, it's available for you to use it to know where you are, right? It becomes more complicated when we include libraries or modules like NumPy and SciPy and all of that, and now we create matrices and from different modules. You'll get confused. Where are you? Okay, and we do conversion, for example, from a list to a matrix, for example. So you need to know what are you dealing with. Why I need to know which class I'm dealing with, or why I need to know this object, for example, x is derived from string class. Why is it very important? Guys, what's going on? Are you sleeping? Why? The last one in the rows, one of you. Why is it important to know which class I'm dealing with? Huh? Yeah.
Is it because you don't define it and the program defines it itself?
You would look what?
The program defines it itself and you don't define it, so.
That's fine. I mean, when you write the code, why is it very important? Because each class comes with constructors, comes with methods, comes with different data types, maybe declared data. Okay, right? So you need to know what you're gonna what you want to use, what you could do. So, for example, you could call so many. If you type, for example, you go in your compiler, type x dot. What will give you in here? Option for how many? For so many methods. For so many methods that you could choose from, right? All right. So it's very important to know what kind of a class you are using. So today, for example, we're going to talk about 4 classes. Okay. The first one is list, a list, and list usually you're going to have brackets. So, for example, this is 1, 2. Let's say x. Let's say x equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is this? List of what?
Two less ends.
Huh? Integers, right? All right. If I say y equals hello, welcome by list of what? Strings, right? Right? So these are strings. There is something called tuple. Tuple. So a tuple, let's say Z equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in here what you use? Parentheses. In here we use bracket, square bracket, right? What is the difference between a tuple and list? Different classes, thank you. What is the difference? So, list is immutable, this is not immutable. What does it mean immutable, not immutable?
Extendable. Extendable.
Speak up.
Extendable.
No. Mutable, but you could change the values. So you could say, for example, x of 0 equals 5. So this becomes 5. All right? If you go in here and you say z, for example, z of 0 equals 5, it will give you error. It's not immutable. All right? So we have in here, these are lists. This, tuple. We have something called dictionary. What is dictionary? Let's say D equals, all right? Okay, so you're gonna use curly braces, or we call it braces, right? Brace or curly braces. This we call or bracket. So let's call this parenthesis, bracket, and brace. Okay, brace. Okay, so what? Give me example for a dictionary, for example. You're gonna have a key, for example, CT, colon. This will be what? Connecticut. You agree? Comma. Then you have here, for example, VT, which is Vermont. Okay, and you have NY, New York. Okay, and you're gonna close with the credit braces. So what is this? Dictionary. So in here, what are the indices? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. In here, what's the indices? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. In here, 0, 1, 2. In here, what are the indices?
0.
No. Connecticut, Vermont, and then Y. So it's a key value. It's like a key and a value. Key as a value. Key as a value. And what we call this? Dictionary. Alright? So we're going to talk about these today. Alright? On top of that, we're going to talk about also about something called date. You know what's date? Time. And date, time. Which combine both of them. These are another classes that you could use. All right. We will talk about one more thing today. We cover what we cover. You know what's the trick now? What we cannot cover in this class, it becomes your sole responsibility. Right? So we'll go over whatever we can go, but definitely this is your responsibility for this one. We're gonna talk about a module called decimal. All right. Remember that usually we know that float, there is integer, there is string, right? There is something called decimal, which will help us write a code that take care with the float point. All right. Remember that for float, usually when you divide number by number, depends on the machine and on all of that, it will have a very string after the dot, right? So it could be, for example, 1.1033333333. This will go to where? Go to Mars, to the sun, right? There's no limit for it, right? So when you run the code once, if your code give you this number, okay, it will round it in a different way every time. So every time we'll have a different result. That's number one. Number two is very important to have one of the three rules for rounding, especially when you deal with the money, stocks, and all of that, because sometimes whether this is like 3 or 4, for example, it could end up in $1 million when you are multiplying it with, multiple $1 trillion, right? So it makes a big difference, all right? So how we can adjust that? Very easy. So there's a class called decimal, just you have to know how to use it, all right? So that's what we'll be covering today. Any questions? I mean, we could end the class right now. You already know what we're gonna talk about, right? All right, so let's move on. So we're gonna start with lists and tuples, okay? So basically, I already wrote some list for you in there. If you allow me to sit. Oh, it's too low, but that's fine. All right. So we already wrote in the how we can. So basically, that's how you create the list. My list equals, and you have to have just square bracket, or we call it brackets, right? So for examples, you have a few examples in here. Look at the first one here, temperatures. So this is 5 float values, list of 5 float values. Look at the inventory, the second one in here, the inventory. What is this? This is 3 string values, staff, for example, hat, shoes. And the last one is a movie, is mixed. So in the list, you could have like different types. So the first one is a string, the second one is integer, the third one is float. And always you could have empty string. A lot of time when you program, you're gonna start with an empty string and then you move on. Okay, so in here, what you do in here, so you have a list. So in here, what you have in here, a list, you see it in here, you multiply it by 5, okay? That means you're gonna repeat the value inside it 5 times. Okay, so use the operator asterisk. All right. As I told you before, I mean, especially those programming multiple languages, sometimes gets confusing. Which one you could use in Python? Is it different than C, different than C++, Fortran, whatever? So always it's good to have another screen for the manual for Google. You could say, or the whatever manual, of Python or a certain reference that you like and all of that. So in here, there how to reference. So always you could in Python, always you could have a reference in positives and in negative numbers. All right. And it's a very important, it's almost like the same way in different places. Okay, so it's the same way in range, the same way in lists and tuples, okay, in different places. So it's a very important, especially when it comes for data science, because we're gonna deal with indexing a lot. We're gonna deal with indexing a lot, okay? So for example, if this is your list, the temps, this is your list, and you say temps of 0, what will be the value? It will be 48. So usually you could count like 0 in here. I'm sorry, I don't have this. I'm not sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's from 0 to 4, or it could be from -1 here. Come from here -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So indexing of 0 equals, in this example, -5. All right? So you could index in negative and in positive. All right? So if you say, for example, temps indexing of -5 will give you 48, which is equal to temps of -1. It's very important to understand how indexing works. Very important. All right? If it's confusing, just write some codes and try to play with it until you master it. Okay? Look at the last one in here. Okay, temp of 4, it will be the last one, which is 42, right? 42 is 0. And temps 0 will be the last one. The last one, which is minus 1. So indexing usually, indexing you have to remember, okay, indexing has to be, it starts from 0 to n minus 1, okay, right? Or from minus 1 to minus n, okay? So 0 equals minus n. 0 equals minus n. If I have five values, 1, okay, let's start from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right? So what is the index of this in here? Either 0 or
Minus 5.
minus 5. What is the index of this?
4.
4 or
Minus 1.
minus 1. How about this in here? 3 or
Minus 2.
minus 2. All right? So it's very important to master this and understand how it works. All right, let's move on. All right, how to get item in the list. Okay, so for the same thing, we have this is the list. So by indexing 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I say, for example, okay, temps equals temps of 0. What is temps of 0? 48, right? And so on and so forth. Okay, same thing in here for inventory. How to get the value? The same thing. You reference it by the index. You have to know how index work. All right. Also, you could set a value. So you could set the values. So if I need, for example, this one, if I say, let's say this is y equals like, so y of 0 equals 5. Print y. What would be the value? 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. What did I did in here? Set the value. Which value? Of index 0 to 5. So now it was changed, right? Can I do that for a list? Yes. Why? Because it's immutable. We change it. If I change this like this, for instance, now it's a tuple. Can I do this?
No.
No. No, I cannot do it, right? There is many methods that we need to learn. Okay, when you talk about method, what is the difference? I mean, simple like difference, maybe you know it by now, we discussed it last time. Okay, and okay, what's the difference between function and method? This is built-in function, and this is part of a class. It's a part of a class, whatever the class is, right? So usually, for example, if we have sorted, this is a function. I could sort any list. So for example, if I have a list inside it, okay, 2, 4, 5, 6, okay. So this is a function. Okay, I could access it directly. The output would be what? 2, sorry, it's sorted. All right, let's make it 3. So it will be like what? Let's make this 2. Okay, it will be 2, 3, 2, 3, 5, 6, right? It's a function. Now, for the method, you need the operator dot. So, for example, let's have a list. Let's have this list, for example. Let's call it again y. There is a method. So, what is a y? It's an object of a class. What is a class? List. So we have a class called list. We created an object called y, right? Right. So there is inside the class a function called sort, a function or a method called sort. So if I need to sort the values in here, how can I do it? Y, which is the object dot sort. Okay, y the sort, the y the sort. I could call it, save it in yy, for example. So now if I print YY, what will be the value? 2, 3, 5, 6. All right? So method usually it's part of a class. To call it, okay, usually use the dot operator. Function, you don't need to have the dot operator right away. Okay, you call it, all right? And part of the parameters, you pass to it whatever the parameters in here to it, all right? There's a little difference between a function and a method. So, whatever you do in Python, number one, always remember that you're dealing with classes. Always you have to know this variable, you're dealing with which class it belongs to. Okay? Inside the class, any class, there is constructors, there is operators overloading, there is methods that you could use. You don't have to invent the wheel. There's a lot of methods. Okay? Any expected method, they write it for you. So when you deal with the string class, what kind of methods you would like to know? Length. Right? It's for you. You don't have to write 6 lines to calculate the length of a list or a string. Okay? There is also minimum, the minimum value, the maximum value, the order of character. All of these are available for you. So always, all of this. So very important to think, this way. So for example, in here, there's a few methods that you need to use, like append. And what is append? To append the value to the index. What is insert? Insert a value. So for example, if I say, for example, y dot insert, y dot insert, for example, okay, at location 3, the value 9. So what will happen to this? This is 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will be inserted in here. No. We'll insert the value 9 for you, right? Then you have the remove. What does remove? Remove the item for you. Then index. What does index do? Give you the index of the value. So for example, I could say y index for the value 5, for example, which will be 2, right? And pop. What pop does? Take an element out. So if you don't specify which element, it will take the last one. If you specify a location, it will take that location. All right?
So,
Yes.
what's the difference between pop and remove?
Remove the item by its value. So you could remove 3, remove 2, pop by the index, by the index value, right? And you'll find a lot of things like that. Okay, I'll take just a few examples. I'm gonna go faster now. So let's take a look at append, right? So for example, this is the stats. You have 48, 30.5, you have 20.2, you have 100. All right. And this is another list called inventory, which has strings. So if I do stat.append 99.5, what does it do? It will add 99.5 to the end. If I do, for example, insert at location 3 row, so 1, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, okay? It will insert, I'm sorry, 0, 1, 2, where is the 3? In here. So insert it for you, row, all right? Remove, what does remove? Remove a, okay? Bob, it will remove the last one with no value, so it will remove the last one. If you specify an index, it will remove the value in that index. Great. There is length. What does it length do? Give you the length of the list. Length of the list. All right. How to print a list? Very simple. Print inventory. What is inventory? Is the name of the list, and it will print it for you nicely with the brackets, like that, with the brackets, right? So print inventory will print it for you with a bracket. If I say print type of inventory, what will print for me?
String.
Class of list. Okay, class of a list. Any questions? All I wish I have time in the class to try these things, okay, but if I start trying these things, again, the class will be over and we have to finish, all right? All right, any questions so far? So in here, the syntax for looping it through a list. When you have a list, you need to loop for it. So very simple, you have like for item, it's a variable you create, and again, the nice thing in Python, you don't have to declare the variables. Item and list. The other advantage of Python is like your language. It's like, you know, English language, right? It's not like complicated and like C, C++. Like item, any item in the list. What is the value of list? Whatever the list is. Okay, then your status. Take example in here. So you have inventory has 3. It's a list of 3 values. Staff, hat, shoes. So 4 item in inventory. So inventory will be removed. So what will have? The list in here. So it's gonna loop through them. It's gonna go through the first one, the second one, the third one. Print item. So what does it do? Print the 3 items. All right. If I need to print them in the same line with a space, what should I do? What they should do for the item? Let's review from last class.
Separator equals space.
Separator
Equals assign space.
or end.
Oh,
End. End the space. Why? Because it will be called how many times? 3 times. So usually when it print the item, staff, and the end usually by default a new line. That's why we have a new line. So I have to remove the end by. All right. So remember that from. So print. Okay. So I could print item and end equals. That's by default, right? So I have to remove it and make it equals to a single space. Then I could print these in the same line. Did this work for you?
No.
Until now, did not work?
I replaced the pattern and uninstall it again and now working.
Really?
Yeah.
You are very complex, man. Works on all my 3 computers. Come to my office tomorrow and we'll install it together.
Okay.
Okay? Should be okay. Anybody has with the PyCharm installation? You have a problem?
oh no.
Anybody has a problem with it? No? You're the only one.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a problem. Okay, so loops. You could loop in a different way. You could loop with the 4. So for example, you have scores. The total 4 score in scores. So you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it adds it. This is one way. Or you could use while. While. That's your logic. So you could loop through. So saying that, you could loop through the list. Do whatever you want to do with the values. You could loop the same way through the tuple. You could loop the same way through string, right? And maybe you could loop in a different way, a little bit different way, and through dictionary. All right, when we have these classes, we need to loop through them. All right, so 4 immutable times: string, integer, float, pool. This is immutable time. Okay, the list is immutable. The list is immutable. Okay, that means you could change. Okay, that means whether it's inside a function or outside the function is declared there. If you change, okay, let me explain it in a different way. Okay, let's say that we have a value of x equals 5. Agree? Def. What is this? Function, right? Okay, change, let's call it change, and let's call value. Okay, and you pass a value for it, whatever. Okay, what do you do in here? X equals x plus 1, return x. Okay? All right, if I say in here print, if I say before that, if I say in here print x, what's the value of x? What will be the output? 5 or 6?
6.
Who says 5? Who says 6? It would be 5, equals to 5. Because inside the function, it will create a different variable called x. Right? So is this variable is immutable or immutable? It's immutable. You cannot change the value in different block. All right, let me give you an example. Let's say that x now equals, is a list. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And in here, what I'm doing in here, actually, what I'm doing in here, I said x, x of 0 equals x of 0 plus 1. All right? And I called the function in here. So I'm gonna call the function in here before I print. So change value, I'm calling the function, and passing to it whatever the x in here. So what is the value when you say print x? First of all, is the list immutable or not immutable? It's immutable. So I passed x to here. It's gonna go to the first element in that list, which is 1, and it changes to what? To 2. So this will be changed to 2. And whatever changes we do in here, it will stay there because it's immutable. You could change it from anywhere. So if I say in here, I'm calling a function. I call the function, gonna call this. So change the value to 2. When I say print x, what will be the output? 2, 2, 3, 4. Yes.
Are objects passed by reference in Python?
Yes. Okay. The mutable ones.
Yeah. Oh.
The mutable ones by reference. And that's exactly like if you did C++, whatever is it by reference or by value. All right? I hope this is clear. All right. So, so that's example here is an example for immutable for what I just explained in the board. So I'm gonna skip. But take a look at it if you're still having confused. This is a program, the user interface for the movie list program. So where you could, for example, command list. You list all the movies. Add a movie. Delete a movie from a list. So where are we saving these movies now? In the program, where are we saving it? Where is it saved in the program? What's going on, guys? Where is it saved?
The list.
Saved in a list. Saved in a list. List of movies, right? So you could list the movies. You could add to the list. You could delete from the list. You could exit the program, right? So this is how the program executed, right? So in this program, we're saving the movies where?
List.
In the list. Is that practical?
Yes.
No. Why? Because when you executed, you added 3 movies to the list. You quit. You run the program again. What will be in the list? The original values, because you know it's right. Because you created the list in the program. So in the future, where are we gonna save the movies?
In a file.
In a file. So we read the file to where? To a list. Okay, do whatever we want to do in the list, add, remove, and save it back to where? To the file. Okay, so this is just for experiment, right? Is a file a practical thing? Yes or no?
Yes.
No. It's not a practical thing, right? Because the file has to be the same where you have the program, right? What if this is like so you need to access from everywhere. So where do you put it? In a database. In a database, right? So you have you create a database. So now you read the database value to where? To a list. do whatever you want to do. And before you quit, what you do? You write back to where?
Database.
To the database. We're going to learn all of that. So this is just dealing with a simple program with a list. Then after that, we're going to save it to a file. Read and write to a file. Then to a database. Database. All right. All right. Now in terms of displaying the data, like in here, list the data. Is this the ideal way of doing it? Should be smarter than this. Whenever I ask you a question, the answer is no. Right? So is this the ideal way of displaying it? No. Say no. Say no. Okay? What is a better way of displaying the data?
Print.
Huh?
Printing?
No. In a nice interface called GUI. We're going to learn that. Is GUI is the ideal way of displaying it?
No.
No. What is the better way? In a web page. You could access from where? Because the GUI it has to be installed in your computer, right? Or it's like an app, right? So we're going to learn all of that. So the data, you write the data to a list inside the program. You're done. You could only run it in here. Once you exit the program, all the changes are gone. Because the data is where? In the list. You're going to learn how to read and write to a file. Then after that, we have to learn how to read and write to a database. Now in terms of displaying it, the simplest thing to display it as a text to the screen. Or you could display it to a file, okay, or to a paper, print it to a file, or print it to a paper, to a printer. You could display it to a GUI, you're going to learn about that. And ideal, you're going to display it to where? To a page. We are not going to learn about that. That's not the class all about. All right, I'll give you an introduction to it, you could learn by yourself. All right, so that's you have to think, what we plan. So take a look at this program, okay? Usually, when we write a program, it will have, you have to divide the program into blocks of tasks. So you have the main, all right? The main, that's where you start the program from, right? You learned that before, right? So you have display menu, you have the list movies, you have add movies, and you have delete movies. What are these? Functions. Okay, you are writing, all right? And they will be called all from the main, So for example, in here, you're defining a function called display menu. It's a bunch of print statements formatted in a certain way. Then you have definition, okay, called list. What you do with this? You list the movies. Where are the movies saved? In a list, we call it movie list. And this is the process. Then another function, to add a movie to the list, right? And that's how it works, right? And then another function to delete a movie from the list, delete. So what you're gonna move here is the movie list. And then the main. So in the main, what you start with? The main you start with movie list. You have the first movie, you have the second movie, you have the third movie. How many movies you have? 3. If I add another movie to here, it will be number 4. But once I close the program, it's gone. It's not an ideal, right? Then what I'm doing in here, I'm calling the menu, display the menu. So it's gonna call which one? This one. All right? Then after that, while true, command input, okay? I need to know what task I want to do. Do I want to list the movies, add a movie, remove a movie, exit, what I want to do? So in here, I keep looping to know what to do. So for example, if the command is list, what I'm requested to do in here? To list the movies, and so on and so forth, right? Okay? And always in the main program, we start if name equal main, then call the main. So the first thing would be called main, and then from the main we call the other functions. That's a nice structure. And this all in how many files? In one file. Okay, we did not come to the classes. when you start creating classes, it's useful to have each file has its own class. You could, if it's small classes, you could put them in one file. Okay, we'll learn all of that, right? So it's very important to learn how you can. Okay, you could also how to define list of lists. List of lists, two dimension. Okay, 2 dimensions. So for example, in here, it's a 3 times 4. So Joe, 85, 95, 70, 3 grades. And 3 grades, Mike, 3 grades. So how many rows we have? 3. How many columns? 4. Now we have to learn, oh, this is a movies, for example. So the name of the movie, year created, how much money made. Okay, list of the lists. Can I create list of the list of the list?
Of course.
Of course. Can I create list of the list of the list of the list?
Yeah.
Of course. Becomes very complicated and confusing. Okay? That's why, for example, we don't use lists in the data sciences a lot. We use NumPy because it will help you, and SciPy to help you to create matrices with so much dimensions. Remember that you're dealing with billions of numbers here sometimes. When you run your program, you need to go vacation with your wife or whoever, or your mom or whatever, for 1 week, come and still running. One does the process, right? Especially when you deal with the big data. All right. So we're gonna learn that. We're gonna move from lists, but we're gonna deal with much more complex stuff than this. Why is it very important to know this stuff? Because I mean, if you're dealing with a class, for example, if you're dealing with for example, let's say like here for name, okay, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and you have like let's say number in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10 students. All right, with how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how many items you have in this list? 50, right? in machine learning and deep learning, what we call this, sir? What we call these in machine learning and deep learning?
Features.
Features. We call them features. Okay? Features could go up to how much? Your work.
And maybe thousands. depending.
1,000 features, especially in image processing, right? So the features could be 1,000. Okay, and what we call these rows is my helper. What we call the rows?
You're talking about like the
Yes.
classifiers or
Samples, right?
Sample, yeah.
Samples,
Okay,
right?
so data.
Data,
Yeah.
right? Data sample, right? So this could be like 100,000, and this could be 1,000, or it could be 1,000,000 sample, and 1,000. You're talking about how many items? 1 billion. How much memory you need? How much processing? I'm sorry. You're gonna need, right? What if some of these in here is a list? So you understand? It becomes like, so we're gonna come to data science. That's what we deal. We deal like with a big volume of data, right? How are you gonna process that? A list is a simple thing. Simple thing. So you're gonna deal with how NumPy do it and all of that, right? So, all right. So truly, if you think that what we are covering now is a little bit difficult, I mean, you did not see anything. I mean, it's just very simple. This is it can't be simple. I mean, if you, even in the future, to run a program, you write a program, it's gonna take you 10 minutes to execute. 5-10 minutes to execute. Yeah, we're gonna download data sets. Okay, and you're gonna deal with the real data sets from real life or fake life. I don't know. Okay, and you try to run it. So this will not be an easy thing to do, right? All right. So in here, for example, as you see in here, there's movies. Okay, how many you have in here? 2 movies. Okay, so movie. Okay, create an empty movie. This is a movie. This is a movie. This is another movie. So movie append. You're gonna append the first item to it, to the movie. You're gonna call it the meaning of life. Then you're gonna append to it the year it was produced. Then you append to it the amount of money it made. And then what you have to append this movie to where? To the movies. So the movie you just created in here, you're gonna movies, append movie. The movie you created will be appended to the movies. So it took you 3 steps to append a movie to the movies matrices because it's the, okay. So you got the idea, right? The same thing to print it is print movies, it will print it for you in a nice format. So it's in a nice format in here. How to loop it through the rows and columns of 2 dimensions. Very simple. So we learned that from all our programming languages. How to loop it through 2-dimension matrix. What do you need? How many loops? You need 2, right? 4. So for movie in movies, then for item in movie, and we could loop it through it. Take a look at it. This is an example. A program is written for you. As I told you, you always could download the program. I give you access to the program. Also in the description, you could cut and paste. You could have the program, whole program. So all you have to cut and paste, run it, cut it to your compiler, and try it, or write it yourself. Or the best way, if you have time, just read the problem, what's it supposed to do, and go write it by yourself. Just forget about how it's written there. Okay, and then compare the way you were doing it, the way it was done in here, and learn from it. And we'll just skip this. 3 more list methods. There is count. What does it do? Count. Count the number of items. Reverse. It will reverse it for you. And sort. Sort. Okay. Sort is what? Is a method or a function. It's a method. But there's a function called sorted for you. Okay. All right. So quickly, I'm not going to go over all the example. I'll leave it for you. So we have NumList, which has numbers, right? Count. So NumList.count. Remember, this is what? A method. So you have to use a dot operator. Okay, and count for 14. How many 14 it was repeated? So 1, 2, give you the result. 2. So what does count do? Count how many times one item existed. Reverse, what does it do? Reverse it for you. Okay, and when it's reverses for you, it will save it permanently in the list. All right? Okay, so if you really need to reverse it back, you could reverse it back, it will give you that. Always remember, it's a very important, very important. Lists are mutable. Lists are mutable.
Professor,
Yes.
I think that the last function should be the sort, the reverse and next.
Reverse, that's the 5, so it's reserved. So 5 became to the end, and 25 became to the beginning.
I said the next reverse should be the sort, right?
What?
Sort.
This is
Sort.
reverse. Where's sort? Here? Here?
No, it's the last one sorted the list.
Yeah.
2, 3, 5, 8, 10, 14, 14.
Oh, so you see, oh, it is supposed to be sort? Okay. It's sorted for you, right? 2, 3, 5. Yeah, right. Maybe it's my typo or something. But again, if you reserve it, if you reverse it, okay, it will be reversed permanently. So you have to go and reverse it again. Okay? So this is supposed to be sort, right? Yeah, thank you. Good catch. All right. So in here, for example, you have a list, food list or something like that. So you could use sort, okay? But remember, when it's sorted, it will sort according to the ASCII code, to the Unicode. So before that, what you should do? Lower everything and then do sort. Otherwise, in here in sort, P made it before A. Why? Because P has lower value in ASCII. Right? So lower them, and then after that, do the sorting. All right? There is 2 more built-in functions, minimum for the list and maximum to the list. And there's also choice and shuffle. What does choice to do? Choose one randomly. So you have to import another, you have to import random. If you say multi-cat, this is the multi-list. When I say choice, it will choose one of them randomly. So you have to call the module random, choice, and you have to it is the list. If you run it the first time, it could give you 14. The second time could give you 15, right? unless you fix the seed. We'll talk about it later. And what does shovel do? Shovels the values. So every time you run it, we'll shovel it for you. All right? Unless you fix the seed. Okay, this is very important also for the deep copy function. There's a copy and deep copy. So you look in here, so you have list 1, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many items? 5 items. List 2 equals list 1. So what is the value of list 2? Same as this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Agree? All right. So if I change, okay, if I change the list 2 second value, so the 2 I made it for the list 2, print list 1, what happened? Changed. So kind of they are pointing to each other. It's kind of I did not make a real copy, another image of it, I just made a pointer to it. So whenever I change the first one or the second one, what will happen? Both will be changed. Right? Okay? If I really truly I would like to reserve a memory for the new copy to be completely separate, I have to call a function called deep copy from a copy. So I have to import a copy. There is a module called copy imported, import copy, and then I code a function called deep copy. When I do deep copy, what does it do? Okay, in the first one, if I have a, for example, if I have a list, let's say the first list is X, okay, and they said Y equals X. So when I go to the memory, that's the memory of the computer, there is a place called, okay, X, all right, and also the same area called Y. But in the deep copy, it will create another area, for example, called Y with a deep copy. All right? Then we have to learn how to slice. Again, it's the same thing we spoke about, start and step. Works the same way in the range. How to slice. So for example, if I need to slice 0 to 2, so what are the values are sliced? 0, 1, which is 52 and 54. All right? I could have also the negative. So it's very important to understand that. All right. What time is it?
2:39.
Huh?
2:39.
All right. Okay. So I'll keep everything for you in here to review. Then we're gonna go with the numbers quickly. Let's have a break. Is it time for a break? 2:39, right? Yeah. Let's have a break. Only 5 minutes. So let's say it's 2:10, 2:15. 2:15. See you back. Okay. Thank you. All right. So we'll continue. We'll talk about how to work with numbers. Okay. So as you know, I mean, you could have integer, you could have float, but sometimes it could be very confusing and disrupting for your program, especially if you are using the float numbers. All right. Because the way it does the division and the rounding and all of that. So I think you know all of that. I don't want to have to explain that, but we'll come to fix for it in a second. There is a lot of functions from the math module. You could import the math module. Okay, you could do the power, you could do square root, you could ceiling, floor. There is some constants, pi. So whenever you're dealing with numbers, you could have many other functions. Sine, cosine, whatever. So you have to import the math library. All right. And just in here, we're just giving you an example for what you could do. So for example, okay, remember that when you have a method, when you import, okay, first of all, let's take a look at the import. You could say import math. You could say import math. All right. So every time you get a call a function from the math, you have to write math dot power, math dot square root, for example, right? Or you could have a shortcut, import math, and you give it a name. Okay? You could give it as M. You could give it as Abu Zunaid, as John, as whatever you like. Okay? And then after that, from now on, you could use the m instead, the shortcut. So m power 2 to 3 will give you 8, and so on and so forth, right? And there is also constants. The same thing, when you call the constants in the module, you have to reference the module. You have to reference the module. Is there a way that I could call a library and not to reference a module?
Yeah. You just import a function from a library.
Exactly. Then after that, you could, use it, right? Okay. There is also floor, ceiling, example. I mean, there's a lot of functions. All right, let's talk a little bit about the format quickly. Okay. So the types of data could be integer, float, percentage, and scientific notation. I'm just giving you an example. This could get complicated. You could take, okay, so for example, I have float point number, right? So format is a method, okay? So I'm formatting what? Text, right? So the text has to be inside quotes, right? All right. And then after that, I specify inside it the format I want, right? So format, okay, floating point number, which is this number, will be substituted where? Here. What is this? Why? Why automatically? What should I do? I don't know. Do I have to do anything? This is from the projector or from my computer? I have no idea. I think it's from the projector. Anyways, when it starts, all right? So now what I said in here, we're gonna use the decimal. There is 2 decimal points. Okay, all right, and it's a float. So you see this number, it took only 2 decimal points. In here, I'm taking 4 decimal points, and it's a float, 4 decimal points. In here, for example, all right, you see the column, this is for justification, and it justifies. So it will be right, if it's in here, it will be right justification, justified. If I put the 15 the other side, it will be left justified. Okay, so that will to reserve how many spaces? 15. You know, reserve 15 spaces. All right, and how many points? 2, and it's a float. So it reserved 15 spaces, right justified, and 2 spaces. Okay, so you could play. This is for look at the integer number here. So digits. All right. Digit. And this is with a comma. Comma every 3 digits will give you the comma, like the money, right? Counting the money. This is, for example, percentage. Okay. So, what is the function of format? Is to format the look of the output. Okay. There's a lot of things, a lot of things you could do in the format. Take a look at it. Just this is a sample, right? Look in here, for example, the formatting a text in here. So you see this output how it's nicely formatted. Done in here. So what I'm using in here, format. I'm formatting how many values? 3, because 1, 2, 3 in order. Okay, so in here what will happen? So how many braces I have in here? 1. So this is the format for the first one. This is the format for the second one. This is the format for the third one. If I have 5, I will have 5 of these, and I'll have 5 there, right? Okay, so look at the description. How is it formatted? It reserves 15 characters. It's 15 characters, and 15 characters. Yeah, in here. Okay, this is 10 characters, but it's what? I mean 10 spaces, but it's what? The greater means what? Right justified. So you see in here, it was it, but it's right justified, so it's right justified. by default it will be left justified. And when you go to this in here, reserve 5 spaces, and it's what also right justified. Clear? So this is the format. You could format the text, you could the string, you could format the digit, you could format whatever. Just to play with it. Whenever you have a code, it's a very good thing that you have a nicely formatted output. Nicely formatted output is given to you. This is in here to set to the location. I will not go over it. You could go over it yourself. But what is the location? What location makes a difference? So if I set the location to United States, what would be the currency? No. If I set it to Europe, what would be the currency? Euro, right? And so on and so forth. So in here, we will set it for English, United States, but in here, for example, Dutch, whatever, Germany, So there is, just follow through these codes, you'll learn how to set that. Is it important? Is it important to set the locale? Why? Especially when you deal with the time, right? Okay, you have an application, for example, website that deals with the time entry, sales, and all of that. People ask from everywhere. So that's the first thing you have to set up there, right? It's like the locale. Otherwise, the times and the dates will be very wrong, okay? So you have to deal with that. Currency function, for example, you have to deal with that. This is in here, this is one of the programs, so order, total, discount, amount, sub, and sales, and all of that, okay? You'll see that in here, we are using round, but round is not necessarily will give you the same result all of the time, depends on how it rounds. So we have something else called decimal. So you code from decimal, import decimal, and there's 3 methods for rounding. 3. There is round, half up, and I forgot the other 3. I think it's on page 260. So if you look in the book, there is 3 standards for rounding. This is international standard. The first one is round half up. Okay, round up if the neighbors are equivalent. This is the constants that's used for most business math. So most of the math applications, that's what they use. The way how they round. Okay, there is round half down. Okay, and round half even, which is the default, right? So it depends on application. It's good to take a look at that and set it up in your application that you need the program whenever it's run for any data to be rounded the same way. Anyways, so in here, for example, so in here you imported the round half up. Round half up, it's how it's used by the business community. Round half up, okay? If I remember in the round half up, also it looks at the where you want to round. If the digit before it is even, it rounds it up. If it's odd, it does not round it up. So for example, if I remember, I forgot right now. So for example, 3.3456. So if I need to have 3 digits. So now, what should be? It should be 3.346 or 3.345. There's rules for it. So it looks in here if it's over 6 and if this even or odd. I forgot which one is which, but let's say if it's even, it will round it up. If it's odd, it'll keep it at. There's rules for it. Okay, there is rules. Three different rules used and kind of a standard. All right, it doesn't matter for me, for you. Okay, just you have to know how to use the locale. That's all I need you to know, right? Especially if you're creating an application for a web, for example, application where people from all over the world at different times, different currencies are using and all of that. Okay, so it's a very important thing. All right, I don't want to cover any more about this. Then we're gonna go to the strings. Okay, strings are like lists. What's the difference? The items are characters. Okay, string. It's a string, right? So some function is the order. What is the order? Kind of the ASCII code. If you need the order of A, the order of C, the order of F, and of course small f different than capital F, and the length of the string. This is a very important, maybe the most used function before you deal with any string. You need to know what is the length of the string, right? So there's a lot built in. So for example, print 5 equals order of 5. What is the order of 5? What's the ASCII of 5? 53. What is the ASCII of 8? 65. And so on and so forth, right? And as you notice, capital letters come before lower letter. So it's always healthy when you need to compare strings to make it lower or upper, okay, and we compare them. Especially if in your comparison you don't care about the case. You care about the value. You care about the value. So for example, here is string. So hello. So it's the same thing like list. So what is the index of H? 0. Okay. What is the index of this? Huh? Length minus 1.
Yeah.
So you do length minus 1, right? That's what we did in here somewhere. Okay. If you're trying to access,
Negative one.
or negative 1. Okay. If you're trying to access a value out of the index, what will happen? It will give you an error. Okay. String is okay. It will give you string index out of range. Okay. Strings are mutable like list or immutable? Immutable. Immutable. So in here I'm trying to change the H to J. Gave me what? Type error. Type error. All right. So there you have to learn what to. Okay. The same thing is slicing. Do I have to explain slicing again? The start and step. We are familiar with that, right? You are already familiar. So when I say take one example. So in here, what does it mean? When it's absent, means from 0 to 5. So you're gonna take which ones? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that means you're gonna take 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello. Okay. Right? All right, and so on and so forth, right? So indexing is everywhere the same where, and range and list and all of that. It's a very important. Multiplication in here, when you multiply this with 20, will repeat it for you 20 times. Multiply it by 2, a horse, which will make it a horse, and so on and so forth. All right. All right. So when we deal with the databases, we're gonna pass queries, right? What is a query? It's multi-line string. So how can we create a multi-line string? By having 3 quotes. So you have 3 quotes and 3 quotes. This is one string which could be to preserve the line. To preserve the line. Anyways, this is what is this? A SQL statement, right? Well, data doesn't matter. It could be anything. So if I need to preserve the new lines, all I have to do is to put it inside. Help me. Inside 3 quotes. So 3 quotes. And by the way, it could be double quotes like this, or single, like here, single. All right. All right. So how to use keywords? Okay, for searching a string. So n is given for you. That's the nice thing about Python. It's like for you. Okay. So term in a string. So for example, in here, million in spam. This is the spam message. Million. So what would be the result of n statement in here? True or false? True or false? And remember, it's a case sensitive. So in here, million in spam give you true, but in here will give you what? Spam. Why? Because there's no capital. It's a small. Someone here small, right? Okay. And on in the spam, true doesn't need to be whole word. Million in spam, true uses spaces, with space, and so on and so forth. All right. So the n could be used. Item and the string you could use to search, right? All right, so if you need also, this is a code, if you need to search for a word, so you could input it in here. So if the item, search item, in a spam, print, okay, you could write a code about that, okay. Okay, we learned how to loop through list before. Is it easy to loop through a string? Say that I will not go over there. Basic string methods, okay? This is what they call them, basic. Okay, that means there's so many, maybe 50, 100, okay, comes inside the class string. I want to repeat this one more time. I'm gonna keep repeating, everything in Python is class, objects instantiated from a class. There's so many methods available for you, okay? All right, why is it useful to use, like, for example, some programs like PyCharm? Because whenever you try to enter the method, it will give you the list of all the methods. Simple compilers might not give you that option to know what are the methods. So, is alpha, check if it's alpha, is lower, is upper, is digit, starts with the value, okay, ends with the string, lower, upper, okay, title, okay, what is title? You know how you write the title, right? Start with the capitals, each word is capital, uppercase, and the rest, okay, title. So what does the title do? Convert any text to the title format. Okay? Right? Strip, what string strip, whatever, okay. Justify the width and all. So there is many strings, okay? Many kinds. Let's take one of two and keep this for you, and there I put a lot of examples for you in here, right? Okay, so for example, if I have the entry this is integer, so is integer, this is the value. I would like to know entry is digit. Is it a digit? Is it a digit?
No.
It's a digit, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, all digits.
The whole thing is.
Yeah, is it digit? Is all the string contains digits?
Yeah.
Yes, so it gave you what? True. Replace the 5 with C. Is it digit? False, right? So again, I taught you this before, that for any function available, all you have to go to the manual. What you have to learn about any method. What does it do? What are the parameters you could pass to it? The parameters are two kinds, mandatory and optional. And what is the return value? So is digital, what is the return value? Boolean, which is true or false. What are the parameters you could pass to it? I don't know, you have to check the manual. So now, what if it has parameters you have to pass to it? All of them are what? Optional. Why? Because in here we did not have anything. Or maybe there is nothing passed to it. Okay, check the manual. All right, I'm just giving one example in here. Title. So, title, the meaning of life. Okay, so title starts with the. Does this start with the? It's a function. True. Okay. So there's so many functions in the class string. So there is, you know, I'll take a look at them. I don't have time to go over that. How to search for a specific character in here. How to search for a specific character. So email, jewel, for example. This is, for example, very useful when you write your programs. Let's say that your program that requires an email address. So part of your program that you must make sure people enter the right email address. What is a correct email address? It has to be maybe 1 or 2 parts, separated by dot, there's no problem. You must have the at, okay? And you should have some word at the at, then you should have dot, then you should have at least edu or what, right? You know the format. So this is a string. Your job in your code, nowadays you could now Google it and cut the code and paste it. Okay, it's already how to verify an email in Python, right? Okay, but you understand what I'm saying, right? So in here, for example, email, somebody email, this is email, at index. Okay, so email, find at. Does it have at? If it does not have address, this is not a valid email, right? Okay, dot index, find dot at index. If it does not dot, it's not an email. Maybe you're gonna write 5-6 lines to verify an email. How about, for example, a phone number? Phone number is written in the United States in 5-6 different ways. You wanna make sure, for example, it contains 10 digits. Okay, you understand? So that's part of the verification in your program, right? When you enter a program, you need to verify. So all of this is what? Text manipulations. Text. Okay. Okay. How to get the first word in the string? I already find. You know. Okay. So replace example. Let's take one example in here. So, for example, this number. Okay. How to replace dashes with spaces in a credit card, with the spaces, right? The credit card. So you see in here dashes. So what you do, the credit card number in here, which is this value, dot replace. You replace every dash with a space. It will give you that, right? Okay. And here, for example, how to remove dashes from phone number. Same thing. Replace the phone number, any dash with a space. With nothing. So with nothing. So dr. Okay. All right. Maybe that's what you need. People like, for example, when you have an application that people enter the phone number, everybody will enter it in a different way. People will enter it, for example, just consecutive digits. Some people enter like the area code with the parentheses, right? Then we have one dash, right? So in your code to manipulate the numbers, maybe you need to remove all the parentheses or the dashes, make them look like that in your database, right? And when you need to display it again, you take the first three, put them in a parentheses space, then the second three with, you understand? So this is also a talent that you have to have with text manipulation. Okay, what is the best tool to deal with the text? Huh?
The best tool.
Yeah. Anybody knows? Did you hear about RE? Regular expression. Okay, so regular expression is the way how to deal with text, and this is like a standard. It's used in Unix and used in here and used in different languages. Okay, maybe we'll try to cover it a little bit in this book. By the way, regular expression, if you need to learn it, is like a book as thick as this. It's just a module you import in here and you use it. But it's the same. It's a language by itself. It's used in different languages. Okay, how to handle a text and all of that. So it's a good thing to. We'll try it. We'll see. Anyways, there's a program in here, user interface to create account program. Creating an account like a program. So when you create an account, people will enter data. They have to enter their email, their phone numbers, and all of that. So your job in your code is to verify that they are providing you with the correct email or correct format for an email and correct format for a phone number and all of that. So this is a program. Take a look at it. So enter the full name, Eric. You must enter your full name. So it has first, last name. So enter password. Then the password you have instructions. So it has to be whatever. Okay. You know, so he entered only this, so the instruction has to be 8 character with what funny code. You know, so that's part of the code that you always, you know, I will not go over the code and keep it for, okay. Let us split, how to split a string into white, you know, you can take a look at that. How to add, to concatenate, join, how to join, you know, there's a method of function that you could join sequences together. So for example, you have an address in here, which is a list, okay, and you need to join. So you join. This character you join it with the address, okay, and then you print the address. So what does it do? It join. Okay, you join every element with the character in here. So you could join with a certain element. So I don't know, I don't want to go over this now. Okay, this is another example in here, the user interface for word counter program. They go look at it and they provide you with the source code. So play with it as much as you want. Okay. Anyways, I wanted to play this game with you, but I don't have time. So maybe next time we'll play it. Okay. How to work with dictionary. Let's go to dictionaries. So we started with lists, strings, and now dealing with dictionary. Dictionaries are very simple. So it's a key value. So you have a dictionary, so you have a key value, comma, key value, comma, key value. All right? So whenever we need to access the value, we have to access by the key. Many examples for you. So countries, CA for Canada, US for United States, MX for Mexico. Okay? So this is the countries. Another dictionary, it's like a dictionary. Right? You know what's dictionary? Dictionary is like you have word and the meaning, right? That's the same thing, like dictionary. Okay, numbers. So numbers, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. And here string. So for example, name, the name of the movie. Year, the year of the movie. Price. Remember in the previous example about the movie, we use lists, right? But it was not clear. I mean, I told you this means the name of the movie. 1997, you did not know what does it mean, right? I told you. This is definitely you did not know. But I told you it's in millions. It means how much the movie produced money, right? Wouldn't it be nicer to use a dictionary than a list for this? Yes, because you have the name. Okay, and you could make it longer. Name of the movie, year of production, price, profit, whatever. Okay, you could always include it here. It will be nicer, right? Okay. And you could have empty like a dictionary. To print it exactly like the string, exactly like. And look, when to print a dictionary, it will put for you brace, right? Put a brace. Remember, for a list, what we use? Bracket. For a tuple, what we use? Parentheses. And for dictionary, what we use? What is this? Brace, right? Now, for indexing all of them, what we use? A bracket. So for example, if I have a list, right? If I have a list, for example, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. If I need to know the first list, what I have to do? X equals, let's call this Y. Okay, Y of 0, right? Always I use for referencing what? A bracket, right? If a dictionary, for example, let's go back in here for a dictionary in here, okay? Okay, in here, if I need to access the first, okay, so what, okay, X equals countries of what? Of CA. So what I use, always square bracket. If I have a tuple, for example, y prime, there's no y prime in Python, so let's make it z. For example, z, if I have a tuple, 1, 2, 3, 4. Although it's with the process, if I need to access z of 0, again I use a bracket, remember that. Okay, so we have parentheses, we have braces, we have brackets, but for indexing always we use the bracket, right? Anyways, so this is countries. Okay, look in here, countries of GB equals United Kingdom, and so on and so forth. So this is to get to set to add, same as we did before. All right. Again, looping. What we're gonna use to get a value? N. So in here, for example, if code in countries. Code is what? The key. Country is. It's the dictionary, right? Okay. If the code in a key, so country equals countries of the code. So always the key. Just how to access the value. Same thing. One extra advantage for or method for dictionary is the get. Okay, so get a key and okay. So for example, in here, so countries get, and you could have in here what? The key. It will return to you what? The value. What is the value is? Mexico. So the key is IE. There is nothing, so it returned nothing because there was. Okay. Anyways. So the same thing, to delete items, you could use pop, okay, all right, or you could use clear. Clear, what does it do? Clear the whole dictionary, makes it an empty dictionary. Or pop, it will remove the key and the value, okay, as a pop, like we used before. Maybe there's an example in here, for example. So in here, countries, pop, the code, whatever, and will be removed from the dictionary. If I want to clear the whole dictionary, delete everything, I use the clear. It does not delete the dictionary. The dictionary will be there, but deletes what? The content. The content, what it has inside it, right? Good? So, what are methods we have in here? We have keys. What does it give me? The keys, all the keys. Items will give me the whole thing, key with the value. Okay, and values will give me the value. So what does it return in here? Huh? A tuple. A tuple, which has the key and the value. The key and the value. Let's try it out. So for code in countries, dot keys. So in here, what I'm looping through? The keys. Okay? Okay, then I'm printing. So the keys print code, which is MX, and then I'm getting the value. I'm getting the value. All right? So anyways, keys will give me what? The keys of the dictionary. All right? All right? So if I say for print countries.keys, what does it print for me? MX, US, and CA, the keys. Right? A tuple of keys. A tuple of keys. All right? In here, item. What is item? What is item? Return what? Key with value. So look in here. This is very interesting. So for code and name, encounters that item. It's gonna go through the item. So the item, it will save in here the code. It will save in here the name. And then I could print it as this. So the item, it will has the code and the name. Okay, and then of course values print what? Name in the it will print the values, only the values. So in dictionary, what we have three things. What are the three things? Start with one. In dictionary, what will we have? I know you are a cameraman, but you know you should focus it a bit. Okay. It has three values in any dictionary. Let me give you the first one, the key. The second one, value. Third one, item. What is item? Includes both. All right. All right. Okay. Are you awake still? All right. Okay. So there is built-in constructors. What is constructor? What is a huh? Create an object inside that class. So when you write a class, we create a constructor, right? There's right how to construct an object, right? So there is a built-in constructor list and dictionary that will create a list and dictionary for us. So for example, here, countries is what? A dictionary. Codes. I'm converting now the countries dot keys into what? A list. So I'm constructing a list from
Dictionary.
no from the values of the dictionary. All right. So construct, you know, it's ready for you. Yeah, clear? So in here, what is codes now in here? If I print type of codes, what does it mean? What give me?
List.
A list. What does it contain?
All of the
CAUSMX. The keys, right? All right. Then after that, I could sort them because now I could apply all the methods of list. I could sort. I could insert. I could do whatever. For code in codes, okay, I could print them in again. All right. So very important construct. You're gonna use them a lot. List. All right, which is convert a view of a dictionary to what? To a list. And dictionary it could do what? Convert a dictionary convert a list into dictionary. Can you give me a good example for a dictionary that we must convert, a list we must convert to dictionary? Remember in the first program we had the movie and the year and that was for us is a list. It's better now to convert it to dictionary, right? And so on and so forth. Okay. So in here, for example, countries, country. So in here, the countries, okay, countries, dictionary, countries. So in here, for example, what is this countries? What is this?
Rest of lists.
This is a list of lists. Okay. So it's a good thing to convert it to dictionary. So what I did in here, I converted to a dictionary. So what countries in here is a dictionary? What countries in here is a list? If I print countries now, after the conversion, how it will print it for me? As a dictionary. As a dictionary, not a list. So NL, whatever, GB. Okay? So you pay attention to these things. The user interface for country program. So view a country name, add a country, delete a country. Anyways, it's a program, take a look at it. Again, the code is available for you, play with it. Okay. Few programs written for you in here, play with them. Then we'll come to the last thing today, which is dates and times. Very quickly, we'll go over it. Okay? Most of our programs will deal with dates and times, right? And operations for days and times. So if you have a date and time, the most important thing, how to display it, right? But also there's operations like the difference. So for example, if you need to calculate the age, how can you calculate the age of a person? You have the date, which is date of birth, and you have now, the date of now. Subtract them, the delta. You know the age, for example. All right? If you're creating an application for a hotel reservation, all right, or check-in in the hotel, so how can you know how many days the person stayed? So there's a date for check-in, and there is a date for check-out, right? The delta, how to calculate the delta. So you are given all the functions. You are giving a whole module to to format the date and the time and the delta operations for you. So you have date to day. What does it give you? Date to day. Date time now. It will give you the date time now. So right. So the date, usually the format year, month, day, and the time, hour, minute, second, and microsecond or millisecond. Date time includes both year, month, day, and then you have the hour, okay, the minute, the second, and the millisecond. Right? So to include these functions, so from date time you have to import the date, the time, the date time. If you are dealing only with the date, just import the date. If you're dealing with the time, import the time. If you're dealing with the functions from date time, import the date time. All right? And we should import things that we need to use in our program, otherwise the program will become sluggish and very big. All right? So we have to do that. So, or you could import them in one line, from date time, import date time and date time, okay, in one line. So for example, if my program is creating an invoice date, so all I have date dot today, it will give me the current date. okay, or date time dot now will give me the current date and time. Functions available for you, methods available for you. Just you have to know how to use them. All right, all right. So code that uses constructors to create naive date time. So for example, Halloween, you're creating date 1988. 10 is the month, 31 is the day. So that will be the output. Meeting time. So the hours and the minutes. Appointment, whatever. I mean, just creating in the objects that you need to use in your. Okay, the common format string codes. So you're gonna have percentile D for the day of the month as a number, day of the month as a number. 22nd, 21, whatever. M, month as a number. Y, 2-digit year. Capital Y, 4-digit year. H, hours of day in a 24 hours format. M, minutes as a number. Okay, second as a number, and so on and so forth. Okay, there is a longer list than this. All right. So code that creates a date time objects using format strings. So date time, there is string time. Okay. And this is the day, right? So what you are saying in here, this is the month, this is the day, and this is the year. So you put the date and you put the format. Just tell your program how you write it and all. Same thing in here. See it in here, formats and all. Here that includes the date and includes the time as well. Includes date and the time. So many options that you have, just a sample. Okay, depends on your code, how you want to format it to the output, etc. Code that gets a date from the user and prints it to the console. Okay, so for example in here, input, enter the date. And you're telling the user enter month, digit, /date, /year. Okay. The person will enter, it will be entered and saved in the data string. Okay. So whatever you enter from the input, what you are in what kind of object? String. But I need to convert the string into what? A date object. If it's a string, I cannot calculate the delta later, the difference. So whatever I enter, I need to convert it to an object of date or time or date time, right? So in here, what date time, string time, so the date string, which is in here, and just telling the program what format was entered. All right? Then now what you have, birth underscore date. What is the birth underscore date? It's an object of date time. In here, date string underscore string. What is it? It's an object of string. It's not useful for me in the program when I have the date and time as a string. I have to convert it to the object of date and time that I could do the operations. Right, clear what I'm doing in here? Okay. So in here, string time method of all data. Anyways, this. So these in here, for example, some commonly used formatting strings. So A, for example, abbreviated weekly name. Example, Saturday. Capital A, full weekly name, Saturday. The full weekly name, and so on and so forth. Okay, so yourself, you don't have to memorize all of that. Maybe change it from language to language. When you're writing your code, you need your input to be in a certain way and the output in a certain way. Just go visit the table and fix it in your program, right? Okay. Code that creates a date time object that has a date and time. So you could have date only, time only, date time. So in here, Halloween, string time. In here, what I'm having, only date. In here, I'm having a date, but in a different format. In here, I'm having a date in a different format. In here, I'm having a date with the day. So date, but a different format. This has a day also. So I have so many options to fix my output for the date and time. Here it is, time delta. So the code will calculate the difference. Again, the application of like for car rental. So the person takes the car at a certain time and returns at a certain time. How can you calculate how long the person took it? So there's a function available for you. You need to have 2 days and 2 times, and you pass it to where? To the time delta, and we'll calculate it for you. Like, you already deleted that, but like I have like, data samples. I need to, to work with dates and times. Is a very easy available for you.
Time delta function.
Huh?
Time delta is a function of date time, or
Time delta, yeah. What's the question?
it's a function.
It's a function.
Yeah.
It's a method.
Method.
It's a method from the Maybe there, okay. So for example, in here, okay, you have to, from date time, import time delta. You have to import it. Okay, time delta the function. And then the module of the function, yeah. So for example, 3 weeks, time delta, week equals 3, 2 hours, 30 minutes, whatever. Anyways, days, seconds, whatever. Code that gets the time span between 2 days. There is a code in here, play with it, okay, for you to play with it. I'm not going to go over it. Again, in this class, I will not have time to go over some of the codes, but they are available for you. Okay, you could run them, play with them, and I think I'm done. The rest are just some codes that you need to play with. The hotel reservation program. There is a hotel reservation program. That's a good example where we use the date and the time and the delta time to know the difference, right? So the code is available for you. So here's this code. So hotel reservation program, enter arrival date, it tells you the format. Enter departure date, arrival date is, departure date is, nightly rate is 105, total nights, whatever, total price, and for another person and all of that. So it will be calculated for you. Do I have anything else? Okay, I don't think I have anything else. All right, so all right, so today it was like a message. There's a lot of things you need to play with. Okay, we have covered today the list, we covered the dictionary, the tuple, and we covered also, remind me, strings, date, time, delta time, all right, and the decimal, the numbers, okay, decimal, all right. There's a lot of programs, as many as 12 maybe. Follow programs for experimental, you could try with them. As I told you myself, it took me 3 hours at home to go through my slides, which I wrote prepared like last semester, okay, just to go through them. Definitely it took me here like another 2 hours, 3 hours to go. So for you, you're gonna take more time. So don't expect less than 6 to 10 hours every week to work in this course, all right? Please do the homework. Any problems with the homework?
Am I still able to submit it?
What?
Am I still able to submit it?
You could submit it, all right? So what I will do, everybody, who did not submit the homework? Only 2 persons, right? 3 persons. Okay? So, I'll give, there's 2 assignments, assignment 1 and 2. You could close this, and that's fine. Thank you so much.